Welcome to The Flow, hosted by Bob Martin, slightly edgy glimpses into politics, culture, society, and being human.
Hey, good people. I put on a jacket and a tie this morning. It was the first time in a while. So I'm a retired trial lawyer, 40 years, hundreds of cases. And I really have been retired, I think 3 times now. But this time, it's been about a year since I went back to court. But a friend I had needed some help. It was a small dispute, so I filed a case in small claims court. And only because there was a court date, they came to the table and settled. So I had to go back to court just to tell a judge that a case had settled. That's all. And when I got there, I ran into a bailiff that I've known for near 3 decades. He's in the 29th year of a 30-year career, about to walk out the door himself. And we greeted each other kind of like old family because, after all those years in the courtrooms, in those rooms, that's what you become. Now, the judge was new to me. He was out just organizing the desk, and we exchanged some pleasantries, stepped back, and then court opened. My paperwork went up to the bench. He looked at it, and then I heard, "Mr. Martin." I stood. "I understand," he said, "you want to dismiss the case." "Yes, sir. I have a settlement agreement signed by all the parties, and if you'd like to see it." He looked at me, and he said, "If you say you have it, then you have it. The case is dismissed." He nodded, and I bowed slightly. "Thank you, Judge." And I walked out. And I'm standing in the hallway, and I felt something that I really didn't expect. I thought it was pride, old lawyers' pride, walking in, being known, kind of being part of something, being able to walk through the door that says authorized personnel only. I kind of felt like I was the cat's meow. But, it wasn't about me at all. It was about the system. 2 people had a dispute. They got emotional. They made their moves. And then, because there was a court, because if they couldn't settle it themselves, a judge would settle it for them. They did. They settled it themselves. Not perfectly happy, but resolved, without chaos, without one side just overpowering the other, and not by force or violence, just with a nod and a bow, and next case. You hear about the cases that go wrong, the ones that make the news, the controversies, the injustices, and they're real. I won't pretend otherwise. Guilty people get off and innocent people go to jail. But here's something 40 years taught me that you may not be aware of. For every case that's become a scandal, for every verdict that shocks the conscience, there are 10,000 cases that get resolved with a whisper. A ruling is issued, an opinion is written, and that all that's left is next case. It is, when you see it clearly, a breathtaking thing. My brother's a Marine, 8 years older than me, early 80s now, but once a Marine, always a Marine. And I've always carried a quiet envy, not a resentment, just kind of a little ache because he got to serve his country in a way that was visible and named and honored. When I retired for the first time in 2015, I just told the court I was leaving. There wasn't any gold watch. There was no party. I walked out, and the sun went down. And I thought that's all there was. But a few days later, I got a letter, snail mail, the real thing, paper. And it was from a judge that I'd often knocked heads with. It wasn't an easy relationship. But all it said was, "Dear Bob, thank you for your service." Thank you for your service. I stood in my kitchen and I read that and something let go. Because I had served, not in uniform and not overseas, not in the way my brother had, but in those rooms, in those years, in those thousands of cases, I had served this democracy. Look, I'm telling you all this because we're in a war. I'm not talking about the one in Iran. I'm not a metaphor. It's a real war against the rule of law. Things are happening right now that any ethical lawyer watches with a kind of heartbreak that goes beyond grief, an existential heartbreak, because we know precisely what is being dismantled, and we know what it will mean when it's gone. The courtroom I walked into this morning is a place where you are considered trusted and trustworthy until you prove otherwise, where you are presumed to be respected until you show you don't deserve it. And that's rarer than it sounds. It is more fragile than you know. This is a system that has spent centuries building trust, and it is losing it in just the flash of a moment. This system, flawed, human, imperfect as it is, has served this democracy for over 250 years. It is the bedrock, not a decoration, not optional. It's the bedrock, and it's being worn away, not in one dramatic blow, but in a death of 1,000 cuts. Look, elections have consequences. What I walked into this morning, that quiet, unremarkable resolution of a human dispute, that is what democracy looks like at 9:30 a.m. on a Tuesday. No fireworks, no drama, just a system that works. A bailiff who's given 30 years of his life to holding a room together. A judge who takes a lawyer at his word. A nod, a bow. Please don't let it die. Please don't let it go while we look away. Vote like it matters. Because it does. It matters more than anything.